Hello everyone, I'm going to be playing Wingspan against the Automa today using the Wingmate iOS app, which I have found to be very helpful at speeding up the process of playing against the Automa. I'm going to be playing on the maximum difficulty, and I'm going to be using both the European and Oceania expansions. The maximum difficulty entails the following. All face-down bird cards that it takes are worth 5 points. It includes the Automa Society card, which basically, whenever it takes that action, it gets a pretty significant amount of points, whereas if you did not have that in the Automa deck, the average number of points per turn goes down a little bit. I am including the Automa's Horde, so each time one of my brown powers would give resources to other players, it is given to the Automa, and based on the type of resource, it gets a certain percentage of points from that. For example, if I give it an egg, it's worth 1 full point. If I give it a non-nectar food, I think it's worth 1/3 of a point, so every 3 of those it'll get a point, that sort of thing. And it is also going to be starting with 5 spent nectar on each habitat, and at the end of each round that will get sort of randomly adjusted up or down, although it may stay the same between rounds. I have had it go, I think, as low as 3 in one habitat, but I've also seen it as high as 10 at the end of a game. So it's pretty difficult unless you have some very strong birds in the forest to outpace all habitats on nectar against the Automa. Typically, you hope to win 1, maybe 2. And that's about the best you can hope for, I think. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got everything set up here, as you can see. I'm going to get the app going. I guess just for consistency, I'll pick the colors that I normally pick. Alright, so now it's going to ask me to set up the round goals. I'm going to randomly do that using all 17 tiles here. Just sort of shuffle them around in my hand, and then typically the way that I do it is just sort of randomly drop a few out here and there until there are 4 down there. And then whatever order they came out in, those are the 4 goals that we'll be using this game. So I'm going to set these other ones aside. And it looks like we got eggs in cavity nests, birds in grassland, brown powers, and food cost of played birds. So I'm just going to scoot those over here to the side for now. The app will take care of calculating it. I'm just going to leave these here sort of as a visual reference, so I don't have to keep toggling the screens back and forth. So, eggs in cavity nests, birds in grasslands, brown powers, and food cost of played birds. So those are the 4. You can see them there. And against the Automa, the player always goes first. Alright, so now let's set up the rest of everything. Let's go ahead and roll the bird feeder here. Looks like we got 2 nectar, 2 split invertebrate seeds, and 1 invertebrate. Pretty decent food start here. I will go ahead and draw the bonus card that will be used for the Automa first. Alright. Or I suppose, just to prove that I haven't stacked the deck, we can go ahead and shuffle these a bit. I did shuffle these a bunch, and the stack of bird cards I have here is just a percentage of the total bird cards, but typically you don't go through more than 100 or so cards in a game, so I'm not going to have the entire deck out here at one time. Alright, so let's draw a card. We have Enclosure Builder. Can hold that up. birds with ground nests, so 31% of cards the Automa will be able to take. In my experience, I have found that, especially on hard mode where face down bird cards are worth 5 points, the higher percentage tends to lead to the Automa getting lower points because there are more cards in the bird tray that will meet its bonus card criteria that are worth less than 5 points. And so if you can leave, like a 1 or a 2 point bird out here when it draws its card, where the action it takes is to take a bird card from the tray that matches its bonus card, you can sort of force it to receive less than 5 points more frequently because there are more bird cards that meet that criteria. So this might end up being a little easier, but again, we'll have to see. Now I'll go ahead and draw I guess I can fill the bird tray. Got 3 cards here. Got the mistletoe bird. We've got the Dunnock. This is an example where, when playing with the Automa's horde, well, I guess not. That's a different example. I'll show this one. This is an example of where the Automa's horde makes this card a little less strong than it would be if you're not playing with the Automa's horde. So all players gain 1 nectar, which means the Automa will start keeping track of how much nectar you give it, and I believe each nectar is worth 2/3 of a point. So if you were to give it 6 nectar over the course of the game, it would have 3 more points at the end than if you didn't give it any nectar, or if you weren't playing with the Automa's horde. So it makes it a little more difficult. And I will also draw, or I suppose I should have shuffled these as well, just to prove that I wasn't stacking the deck, but I'll go ahead and leave those birds out because I know that I did not cheat here. We'll draw my 5 bird cards, 2 bonus cards, see what we get. Alright, Rodentologist, Forest Data Analyst are the bonus cards. Alright, we got Sprague's Pipit, Benelli's Eagle, Northern Mockingbird, which is a strong one, Stubble Quail, and a Killdeer, which is absurdly strong, especially with the Northern Mockingbird. All 5 of these can go in the grasslands, and when you start with a Killdeer, typically you do want to play a lot in the grasslands. So I anticipate that I am not going to be doing a whole lot in the wetlands if I'm going to be using the Killdeer to draw cards. So it doesn't help me make a decision with my bonus cards because neither of these are really wetland specific. I think given that I have a Benelli's Eagle, which is a very strong card, and especially strong when you have Killdeer, because since you pay its alternate cost by tucking cards from your hand instead of using food, essentially Killdeer helps pay for this, and it increases the amount of points you get when you play it, because each tucked card is worth an additional 1 point. So instead of spending food and getting 8 points, you can spend 3 cards and get 11 points, which is pretty strong, and it eats rodents, and so I'm probably going to pick Rodentologist. I'll go ahead and set that up there, and we'll discard the bonus cards elsewhere off screen. And then I need to pick some number of cards, so definitely going to keep the Killdeer here, one of the probably 4 strongest cards in the whole game. For my first video, this is a pretty extreme case. We'll see if I can beat the Automa here. Probably going to keep the Northern Mockingbird. Lets me repeat a power in this habitat, where, especially starting with Killdeer, repeating that a few times early to fill out your hand and dig for the best cards is pretty good. And I think I'm definitely going to want to keep this Benelli's Eagle, since it goes with my bonus card and is great with the Killdeer. Now, the other two, stubble quail, is pretty good if you end up with a lot of ways to produce excess food. It can make for a pretty big play and sort of allows you to convert food into eggs pretty swiftly. I know the board lets you to do that sort of piecemeal, but this can be like turn 6 food into 6 eggs either at the end of the game to turn them into points, or if you're just a low egg producing, maybe you're playing mostly in the forest or the wetlands instead of the grasslands, this can be a great way to supply yourself with a bunch of eggs to allow you to play a handful of birds in the later columns. However, I anticipate that I'm not going to need to worry about having too few eggs because I'm going to be activating grassland as often as possible. So I think we can pretty safely discard this one. And then the last card in my hand is Sprague's Pipit, which is, a fine and regular card. Drawing extra bonus cards. It's typically pretty strong. However, because it's only worth 3 points for 2 resources, which is a little below par, I don't think I'm going to need this to keep it in my opening hand. I think it'll be more valuable for me to have some extra food, and I'm going to be able to draw other bird cards that are probably going to be better than this. So I will hang on to these 3, which means I can keep 2 food along with the 1 nectar that we always start with in the Oceania expansion. So this really doesn't cost any food, so I don't need to worry about that. So the other 2 food will probably be fruit and invertebrate. These both take invertebrate and this takes fruit. So I should be able to play both of these cards with that 3 food and then start going to town in the grasslands. Hopefully I can draw a couple birds to put up in the bird feeder, up in the forest. That'll help me generate a bit of extra food. The Eastern Rosalia in the tray here does give you a lot of nectar and extra seeds, so it produces a bunch of food. The cost is you're also giving the Automa a bunch of extra points. And it does have a pretty steep cost of 2 nectar, which I can't currently pay for. So I think I'm just going to plan to take my chances with the killdeer getting food elsewhere. It's worth noting that the Benelli's Eagle, typically you don't have to play it early in the game. You can just play it on one of the last turns for a big 11-point play. However, because it can go in any habitat, if I'm looking to just get into the second column, which doubles the amount of food you have each time you activate, it might end up being like an early play up here if I don't find anything better from the killdeer activations in the first few turns. So, that said, I'm going to go ahead and start on play a bird. Obviously, play the killdeer, which costs 1 invertebrate. And then I'm done. So we go to the Automa and use this symbol, which means we reset the bird tray. And it's going to lose 1 action cube. This is what you're competing against for the round goals, is the number of cubes it has. You can see down here. Now this is not the best angle for the screen. Maybe someday I'll get a better version here, but it starts automatically with 1 egg in cavity nests towards the round goal, and then each time it gains an action cube, that becomes 1 more towards the end of round goal. And each time it has this X symbol, it removes 1 of those action cubes. But since it's at 0, you'll see when I press this, it's going to remain at 0. It doesn't go to -1. Alright, so we got more stuff in the bird tray here. We got the black-bellied whistling duck, which, if you can discard a seed every time, it's 2 points per activation, which is very strong. However, for me, I do not have a way yet to consistently produce seeds, or food of any type for that matter. And it's in the wetland, and since I'm trying not to play in the wetland this game, probably not going to be for me. Then we have the common nightingale. Choose a food type. All players gain 1 food of that type from the supply, which is certainly a way for me to produce extra food, especially since you can pick nectar, although I wouldn't necessarily have to choose nectar. Nectar is worth twice as much as normal food when giving it to the Automa's horde. So it's a consideration. It holds a lot of egg slots. It's 3 points for 1 total food, so it's not horrible, but I am concerned about activating it too many times and giving the Automa too many points over the course of the game. So we'll have to think about that. Tawny Frogmouth, which is the name of an excellent person on Board Game Geek who has gathered a lot of data that I have found useful about the game. So feel free to check out their posts on Board Game Geek about Wingspan. The card itself, it's okay. It's a better take on predators than the ones where you re-roll all the dice outside the bird feeder, I would say. I think I haven't looked at the specific statistics in a while, but I would say much more often than not, you're going to get 1 point per activation out of this. Probably between 50 and 75%, probably close to 65-70%, something like that. So, however, it does cost 3 food and it's worth 5 points, only 2 egg slots. I don't think this is a high priority for me, so I think I can do better than that. Alright, so that was the Automa's turn. My turn too. I'm going to make the obvious play of gaining eggs. So we'll get 2 eggs, and then we'll activate the killdeer, discard an egg to draw 2 cards. Now, I did say I am considering taking the common nightingale. However, whenever you draw cards, if you know you're going to draw more than 1, and there's only 1 in the tray that you want to perhaps take, it's usually better to start by drawing cards from the deck first, because you may find a better card that changes your decision about whether you even want to draw this anymore. So you want to get the maximum amount of information available to you before committing to drawing a card. Since I'm going to draw 2 cards here, I can always, if the top card is garbage, I can choose this as my second card, but if the top card is, one of the ravens, then I'll never need this card, and I can just draw some other random ones instead. So let's see. We drew the Splendid Fairy Wren. Lay an egg on each of your birds with a wingspan less than 30 centimeters, including this one, at the end of the game. Now, none of the cards, these are the 2 in my hand, 36 and 160, and the killdeer has 46 centimeters, so none of these have less than 30 centimeters at the moment. I feel like you'd have to have a pretty significant number of less than 30 centimeter birds in order for this to be excellent, because it is 2 food for something with 1 point. It is worth noting that this is a star nest, so that does help with the round 1 goal of eggs and cavity nests, which none of the other birds I have contribute towards. But the round 1 goal, let's say if I am guaranteeing to lose to the Automa because I'm just not really pursuing that at all, if I get 0, that's the worst that you can do, but my point is, if I choose to get 1, then I automatically come in second place against the Automa. But in round 1, second place is still only worth 1 point. So I find it's usually okay to fully sacrifice the round 1 goal in favor of, getting stuff set up a bit better. Later goals, second place on, let's say, round 4 is worth, if I remember right, 4 points. And so that's a bit more significant. You usually want to, even if you're going to lose the competitive goal to the Automa, you still want to get second place because it's worth 4 points. Abandoning it entirely means you essentially miss out on 4 points. So I expect this is not going to help me on my quest. So I am going to go ahead and with the second card draw take the common Nightingale. And that'll be my turn. End of the turn, we'll refill the bird tray. We got Eleanor's Falcon. This is another one of these roll all dice, not in the bird feeder. And if any, this is not really a good card. I don't have a better way to explain it. Rolling all the dice that aren't in the bird feeder, even if there are 4 of them, the odds of getting a rodent are something like barely 50%, and then anything less than that, you are less than a coin flip to ever get points on that. And because this lays eggs, if its egg slots are full, you don't even get points when you activate it sometimes. So not my favorite card there. Alright, so that was my turn 2. Let's go to the Automa turn 2. This is one of those where it is going to try and draw a card from the tray that meets its requirements. Now, I did say that the higher percentage ones, this one being 31%, are typically better because you can try and set up the tray to have it take lower than 5-point birds. However, this time didn't really have an opportunity here because this card just flipped over. We didn't have a choice to leave a weaker one in the tray. So it is going to get to take this for 6 points. Now, typically you're supposed to keep track of these face-up cards so that at the end of the game you can count them all up. However, this app, one of the nice things is you just tell it how much this is worth and then you never have to look at this again. So don't put it in the discard pile in case one of the cards that you get interacts with the discard pile, but you can sort of pitch it and not worry about storing it or anything like that. So it is going to say yes, gain 6 points, and then we'll replace it in the bird tray. We got Song Sparrow, which is not a bad card. A pretty decent early play if you don't have anything super powerful. It allows you to sort of hop around to go to column 2 for your activations as quickly as possible. So maybe you'll go turn 1, play it up in the forest, then you can get 2 food, and then activate it, move it down to the wetlands, and then draw 2 cards, and then move it up to the grasslands, that sort of thing. It does have 5 egg slots, so it holds a bunch, but it is worth 0 points, and it does not contribute to the cavity nest round goal. So I'm not sure if it is a high priority for me. I think my goal at this point is to get this Northern Mockingbird in play as soon as possible. So that will be this turn. Play a bird, Northern Mockingbird, costs fruit, and I'm going to use nectar on the invertebrate. So spent nectar goes over there, fruit goes discarded, and it costs 1 egg. So that is my turn. So future turns, I can gain 2 eggs, but then spend both and turn those eggs into 4 total cards, should I choose to do so. I can also do things like discard one of the cards to get an extra egg. So if we look at the Splendid Fairy Wren, which I don't think is going to be something that contributes to my overall plan this game, I can discard it for an egg. And because I have the Killdeer, that's sort of a positive transaction, because an egg is worth 2 cards, and if I turn 1 card into 1 egg, it's essentially like, turning a card into 2 cards later. So it's not like I am giving up a resource. In fact, I am still getting ahead on resources by doing that. So that will probably be my plan for future turns here. Alright, so on this turn the Automa is just gaining 1 egg, so it's just increasing its point total by 1. And now we are left to take our turn. I still don't have a card that I particularly want to play in the forest, nor do I have any cards that I particularly want to get out early. So I don't know exactly what type of food I'm going to need. It's possible that I'm not even going to spend much more food this time. So I am going to choose to lay eggs. So I get 2 eggs here. I'll just go ahead and put 1 on each. Don't really have a particularly strong reason. I am going to choose to discard a card to gain an additional egg. Alright. Now we activate the Mockingbird. I'm going to repeat the Killdeer, discard an egg, draw 2. Again, I am likely going to draw 4 total cards, and the only one in here that I'd really want to consider is maybe the Song Sparrow, but I doubt that any of these are going to be better than just drawing off the top. But in any case, I can delay that decision by drawing 3 cards from the top, see what they are, then decide if my 4th card is still worth drawing one of these. So we'll start, draw 2 cards. Those will both be from the top of the deck. We got box art, scissor-tailed flycatcher. All players gain 1 from the supply. Now this does go in the grasslands. It is worth a decent number of points, so I could then activate grasslands to gain food and cards and eggs. However, it is giving the Automa some additional points over time. Every 3 times this is activated, the Automa will get 1 point. So may or may not be worth it. Then California Condor doesn't cost any food, which at this point I don't have any food, so it could be a way to get something into the first grassland slot and draw 2 new bonus cards. It's only worth 1. It's not the appropriate type of nest that we're looking for, but it still may end up being an okay play early, especially if I don't want to commit to taking food, especially like taking nectar that I don't know if I'm going to spend yet. But the Scissor-tailed Flycatcher is a card that I will consider playing on a future turn if I don't get anything better. Alright, move this over. Killdeer. I'm going to go ahead and activate that again. We'll draw 2 cards. First one, Hermit Thrush. Players with the fewest forest birds gain 1 food die from the bird feeder. Now, these are typically hard to make work in a multiplayer game because by putting this in your forest, you are unlikely to be the one with the fewest in the forest anymore. It'd be pretty rare for that to happen. However, the way it works with the Automa, since it doesn't play any birds, is it looks at the number of action cubes that it currently has. So this red cube down here, the number below it on the app. And if it has any number greater than 0, that is the number that is represented for any ability that is looking for, like, does your opponent meet X condition? So in this case, it would have, if this were in play, I would have 1 bird in the forest, and it would be considered having 0 in the forest. And so if I were to choose to activate it, it would be the one that got food, go to the horde, and I wouldn't get to do it. So it wouldn't be worth activating in that case. As the rounds go on, the Automa is more likely to gain action cubes, since we are playing with the Automa Society card. That does increase the chances. I think each one of those includes an action cube on it for all 4 rounds. So it's more likely to gain more as the rounds go. But this is also a star nest, so it would theoretically help with this. If I got an egg on it, I might end up getting more points than the Automa for this round 1 goal, or at least getting the 1 point for 2nd place. but it's pretty expensive food-wise, and I don't have a strong way of generating tons of food yet. So we'll see about that. And the second card, I'm still going to choose to draw from the deck. We got a wetlands only bird, so it's unlikely this will be something we play. Gray teal, when activated, look at 3 cards from the deck. Keep 1 wetlands bird if there is one. You may add it to your hand or tuck it behind this bird. Discard the other cards. So I'd have to check the statistics on this one. It's nice that it gives you the option, if you do hit, to either draw it if it's one you want to play, or tuck it, turn it into a point immediately. But it's, again, sort of less than 1 guaranteed point per activation, and I'm not sure how much less. I would imagine it's more than 50%, but I don't know that for certain. So that's a pretty good candidate to discard for this game on future turns. So that's my turn now. So Automa's turn 4. It's going to take dice from the bird feeder, and basically it just goes in order from left to right. That's the priority that it's going to take, and it takes all dice that meet that criteria. So because we do have a hybrid seed invertebrate couple dice, we're going to take both of those out. That's that. And if I had any pink powers, this would be how I would activate them. It doesn't matter what the pink powers are. They do not have to be food related. All pink powers get activated when this sort of card comes up for the Automa. So I don't have any, so that's its turn. Didn't gain any points, but I also didn't get to activate any pink powers. So not too concerning for me. It didn't take the nectar out if I still wanted to get some nectar and use that. So I am okay. Now I do have a bunch of bird cards in hand, and as I said, playing the eagle, because it just costs cards in hand, is likely going to be a solid play for us at some point this game. Doesn't have to be early, unless you really want to get towards one of the other columns for activations, increase effectiveness. And so I am heavily considering just playing the eagle up here this turn, so that future forest activations will gain me twice as much food. However, it is worth noting that because I have an excess of cards, I can always just discard a card to turn it into food. I do not think I'm going to run out of cards for any reason with this sort of setup. I also do want to get to at least this column, which will allow me to place 4 eggs a turn, even though I would be spending cards each time. Again, to kill deer and mockingbird produce like way more cards than I would be spending here. And so that would, at minimum, that's where I want to get early in the game. And since the round 2 goal is number of birds in the grassland, filling that out as quickly as possible will be good for next round. But in order to do that, I would pretty likely need to get some food. So sort of my options that I'm thinking about here is I could either just play the eagle here immediately, spend my last egg, spend 3 cards, and then I would unlock sort of this column, which gets me an extra egg every turn. Or I could play it up here to sort of unlock the forest activation increase. And I think I'm more likely to want to play it in the forest. The reason being, I am more likely to, over the course of the game, activate in the grasslands. So I would want to put birds with brown powers here because I'm more likely to get more triggers off of them, more activations off of them throughout the course of the game. And because this is just a play it, it's worth 11 points and then that's it, I think you would want to play this somewhere where you're unlikely to activate it too often, or it doesn't need to be in a row that you're activating super often because it doesn't have a brown power. So I think that's likely going to go up there. So the question is, do I want to do that this turn? Do I want to just draw more cards and see what happens? I'm not sure how much the order matters. I think the order really only matters if I'm trying to pursue this end of round goal. And I did state earlier that it's not terribly important, because even if I get 0 points, I'm only missing out on about 1 point, because it is pretty hard in a lot of scenarios to win the round 1 goal if you start out a little slow against the Automa. That said, this only has 1 point so far towards that goal, but I expect, since we haven't seen it draw any cards that get action cubes, that it's pretty likely to probably get at least 2 action cubes in the next 4 turns. So I do not think I am going to be competing for first place against it, and I'll only really want to compete or worry about getting second place if it doesn't slow me down overall. Giving up 1 point, I think, is not going to be worth the long-term benefit. So I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wait 1 more turn on playing the Benelli's Eagle. The logic being, if I play it and I use 3 bird cards, let's say these 3 for example, if I then activate down here, I would have to discard one of the cards that I kept that I would consider to be, not among the worst 3 cards, and so it may not be something that I would want to discard. However, if I draw 4 cards this turn, I'm very likely to have a surplus of cards that I definitely don't care about, and I'll still be left with plenty of cards to discard that I still don't care about when it comes to activating these. So that's going to be the sequencing I'm going to choose here. So we'll start by laying 2 eggs. 1, 2, and I will go ahead and discard the gray teal to get an additional egg. Put that there. I will repeat the killdeer, draw 2 cards. This has not changed since last time, and so I'm going to continue drawing from the deck. 2 cards we got here are Griffin Vulture. At the end of round, choose a player, including yourself, cash 1 rodent from the supply on this bird for each predator that player has. Again, that would just count the number of action cubes it has, would be the number of predators that the Automa has. So this is sort of like, the earlier you get it down, the more rounds it gets activated. It just sits there and collects points. If this were a forest bird, for example, I would consider playing that this round, because I do want to get to this column, as I said, and over the course of the game, the Automa is likely to generate, 5 or 10 action cubes for each round end, and so this would eventually be a pretty hefty source of points. However, because this can only be played in the grassland, and because I'm really looking to get things that activate for additional points in the grassland, this doesn't do that. I'm unlikely to want to play this. And then the second bird we drew was the Great Egret, which is an outstanding bird. Play a second bird in your wetland when played and pay its normal cost. So, because I'm drawing a bunch of cards over the course of the game, I'm likely going to hang on to this until very late, and it even pairs really well with the end of the game, round 4, food cost of played birds. This will add 3 plus whatever bird I play after that. Hopefully another 2 or 3 food cost bird. Just be like a big 12 to 15 point play. In my experience, if you can stack this up with, what is it, the Arctic Puffin, I think, which costs 3 food. It's worth 8 points, and you draw 2 more bonus cards. That can be like a 20 plus point single turn, especially if it starts contributing to the end of round goal. So don't need this immediately, but it is likely going to generate us a huge turn towards the end of the game. So that was the 2 cards that we drew from the Mockingbird. Then we move over to the Killdeer. I'll discard an egg, draw 2 more from the deck. Alright, here we go. We got a Northern Harrier, 3 points for a single rodent. When activated, look at the card from the deck. If its wingspan is less than 75 centimeters, tuck it behind this card. If not, discard it. Now, general rule of thumb, this is not the exact percentage, but 75 centimeters is about 75% of the time you will get to tuck a card. So, yeah, each activation is worth, 3/4 of a point or so. And it is a rodent card, which goes great with our bonus. It's low food. It's a grassland. This is very close to a perfect bird for us, so we're probably going to try and play that soon. The second card we drew was the Greater Roadrunner. Very similar to the Harrier, except its threshold is 50 centimeters, and it costs more and is worth more. We may end up playing this later, but we definitely don't have the food for a few turns to play it early. And 50 centimeters is significantly worse than 75 centimeters. This only successfully eats about 50% of the time. So I would consider this less of a you want to activate it a lot sort of bird, and more of a you gain 7 points when you play it for 3 food. It's also a rodent eating one, so it would be sort of 9 points for 3 food, which is pretty good. We may consider it much later, but I think we're probably going to try and get this Harrier down within the next few turns if we can. That'll be a good goal for us to work towards. So, kind of my thoughts for the last few here. Done with this turn. I'll be sure to do the Automa in a moment. Are probably going to be play the Benelli's Eagle up here in the forest, discarding 3 cards since we just have, I don't know, like 9 cards in our hand. We can get rid of a bunch of those. And then the turn after that, we can activate for some food, hopefully get at least 1 nectar, and then 1 of something else, and then probably the last turn we'll play the Northern Harrier, spending a nectar in here. We've got the eggs already, so that seems like a reasonable way to go about the next few turns. Alright, so Automa turn 5. It is looking for birds with ground nests in the tray. There are none, so we hit no. You're going to see it's going to get 5 points, up to 17. And here we go. Just like I said, it's going to start getting action cubes, so it got one. Notably, I didn't mention, neither the Harrier nor Benelli's Eagle have cavity nests, so we are just going to have to be satisfied with taking 0 points for the round 1 goal. But I think we're pretty likely to get first place, or at least tie for first place if the Automa gets pretty lucky here in the grassland. We're going to be going into round 2 with 3 of them filled, with the ability to draw a bunch more cards and at least generate a decent amount of food. I think for round 2, our goal is going to be getting 1 more bird in the forest, because since we have an excess of cards, being able to discard a card and get an extra food will be particularly valuable to us. We don't want to activate the forest too often, but when we do, we want to make sure it supplies us with enough food to play a few other turns elsewhere. And then try and fill out the grassland even more. Hopefully we can find something where we want to use our Mockingbird on it. If we could get something like a Gala, where every time you activate it, you're just guaranteed 2 points. That's an outstanding one. Mockingbird, or something that's guaranteed 1 point would also be pretty good. The Harrier is like, if you activate it twice, it's like 1.5 points, so not amazing, but still an okay choice if we want to stop drawing more cards. So that's the plan. We're going to play a bird. We're going to choose Benelli's Eagle. When played, for each robot in this bird's cost, you may pay 1 bird from your hand and tuck them. So we are going to choose the Griffin Vulture to tuck. We're going to choose the Hermit Thrush to tuck, and we are going to choose I'm going to go ahead and pick the Common Nightingale. I don't think we're going to care too much about those 3. So tuck 3 cards behind it. Column 1 doesn't cost any eggs, didn't cost any food. Just an 11-point play here in round 1. Pretty solid. So thanks, Killdeer. You are insanely strong. Alright, turn 6 for the Automa. Again, it's going to go for the bird feeder. And it looks like it's looking for fruit. And we have 1 fruit die here. So that's what it will take. I don't have any pink powers. So we gained 11 points. It gained 0. Pretty good sequence for us, I'd say. Alright. So the way the bird feeder looks now, we have 1 nectar, which we care about for trying to play this Harrier on the following turn. And then we sort of have to decide what type of food we want to look for to hang on to between rounds. We don't want to take 2 nectar because we're just going to spend 1, and then we would have to discard the other. So looking at our hand, and especially given that we have this Rodentologist bonus card, I have a feeling trying to look for rodents would be what we want. This costs a rodent, and so does the Great Egret. Great Egret also costs 2 fish, so I think taking a nectar and then re-rolling to try and find a rodent or a fish would be okay. And worst case scenario, we probably get an invertebrate or something. So we will activate that, take 1 nectar, and then re-roll the bird feeder. Alright, and there we go. We did get our rodents, and plethora of reasonable options for future rounds. It's pretty likely that the nectar will still be here for us shortly into round 2 if we want to grab that soon. The Automa doesn't have anything that values nectar in particular, so it's really just, are they taking a seed or fruit? And as you can see, those tend to be the 3rd one for each half. So I think they only go in like these halves of 3 sequences there. I'd have to double check that, but it has like a somewhat lower priority on nectar than we do, and so it's likely that that will be there for later. So that was the 2 food we got. This doesn't have a brown power. We're done with our turn. Turn 7, it's going to gain 1 egg, and as predicted, also an action cube. So now it has 3 eggs towards the round goal. It was going to be hard for us to catch that, even if we did find a cavity nest with like 5 egg slots. We would have had to activate down here a few times and not discard too many eggs drawing cards. Yeah, probably not worth even pursuing that. So last one, as we said, play a bird. We're going to play the Northern Harrier here in the grassland. We're going to go ahead and spend our nectar on it, and we will discard an egg for its cost. And that will be our round 1. And it is going to try and draw a bird from the tray with a ground nest. This hasn't changed in a while. We have not been drawing from it for a few turns, so it's going to continue gaining 5 points. we are going to hope to start kind of controlling its ability to gain 5 points on those turns by, drawing a bunch of cards and hopefully leaving some low point ground nest birds in there in the future. But this round it got, I think it did this 3 times, and it got 6 points, then 5, and then 5. So we're a bit in the hole because of that. However, it did choose to take food twice, which we didn't care about at all. And so hopefully that'll let us mount a decent comeback, especially since we've got Killdeer Mockingbird. I think we'll be still in okay shape in future rounds. For those of you unfamiliar with the app, that button I just pressed did the nectar update, which is kind of a hassle to do in real life, but in this you just hit OK and it calculates it. In this case, it gained 1 nectar in the grassland, so it now has 6, and the other 3 remained where they were. So no huge change there, and especially we are going to have a lot of opportunities, I think, to put some nectar in the grasslands if we want, to try and catch up. Certainly we're going to try and play some birds with nectar in the grasslands, so hopefully we might be able to overtake the nectar there. And if everything goes particularly well, maybe we'll have a big turn in round 4 with the great egret. Maybe we can spend 3 to 6 nectar down here and maybe overtake it, depending on how that one adjusts. Alright, now it's asking for our round goal. So we had 0 eggs in cavity nests. It had 3, and it's going to keep track of that for us. So I don't have the round goal board out here, but they gained 4, we gained 0, so I'm just going to place my token here. That's kind of how I like to do it. Round 1 is done. Can put all these back. I'll just, round 2 starts. Reset the bird tray. Okay, there we go. And then it'll start with us again in round 2. Just to sort of show you what came up in the bird tray, we have the maned duck, wetlands only, so unlikely to be for us. However, it is one where you can tuck up to 3 cards and turn some of those cards into seeds. If you have an excess number of cards, this can get 3 points per activation. A lot of egg slots, only 2 points for 2 foods, so you would want to activate it a lot, and you would want to tuck cards a lot with it. But kind of a pretty decent bird, I would say, for a primarily wetlands sort of game, which is not going to be us this time. I was most excited to see this, the whooping crane, because that if we don't find anything better, that would be a good one to pair with our great egret as like a big 1-2 play down in the wetlands. Great egret 7 points, this is 6 points, so it'd be 13, plus maybe we get some pretty nice bonus cards to choose from. It's also 3 wild food, and so even if we are not gaining and spending tons of nectar, we can hopefully gain some food and have a few sitting around during round 4 we can spend on this. So also, because it's a ground nest, we would probably want to take this out of the bird feeder before the Automa has a chance to take it with its bonus card. And then the last bird in the tray is the Eurasian magpie. Round end, choose another player for each action cube in their grasslands. Cache food from the supply in any of your birds. Again, this would be the number of action cubes it just has in total would match that number. So a decent one to play. They had 2 action cubes, the Automa did, in round 1, so this would have gained 2 cache food, 2 points, if we had it in play last round. I think over the course of the game, again, it would probably get more than 5, maybe averaging less than 10 points or maybe close to 10 points. So if you got it down early and let it sit there and accrue a bunch of points against the Automa, it would certainly be worth the 2 food cost overall if you're getting, 10 points. You don't even have to worry about activating it in order to make it worth it. However, again, it's a grassland bird that doesn't have a brown power. We're not really looking for those. We've also missed round 1 already. I don't think this is going to be a high priority bird for us. So all we care about is taking the whooping crane out of the tray and probably just working to find some other particularly strong birds off the top of the deck. So we will start by getting 2 eggs. 1, 2. I'll just go ahead and put them sort of wherever. We don't have a strong reason to place them in any particular spot at the moment. And I probably want to start pitching some cards that I don't care about in order to gain more eggs. I don't think we want to pitch food. We want to just pitch cards. I don't think we're likely going to try and use the flycatcher to gain food. We don't really need invertebrates. We don't have a particular reason to want invertebrates at the moment. I don't think we need to give the Automa extra points this game. We can look for something better. So that'll be 1. Get another egg. And then we're going to keep the Great Egret for sure. The Greater Roadrunner is we could end up playing it, and it would be okay. It wouldn't be incredible, but it would gain a handful of points throughout the game with its brown power, and it's worth, 9 points to us, so it would be a decent play. The Condor, at this point, we could certainly play it in the forest to get us here for our activations, and that would be alright. But it's worth 1 point, gets a bonus card. Probably on average, this is a 4-point play. It also costs an egg. So I think we can do better, especially if we're going to try and play this whooping crane. I think we're going to end up getting bonus cards elsewhere. So I will also discard that for another egg. Again, I didn't place the eggs in any particular spot, but I will say just because this is likely going to have cards that need to be tucked under it, I try to avoid putting eggs on this because it becomes a hassle picking it up without having the eggs fall around everywhere. Hopefully I can figure out a way to make that easier, but you may see me avoid putting eggs on this if I can, just for that reason. So let's activate the Northern Harrier. We'll look at a card. Wow, if it's less than 75 centimeters, and there we go, 74, pretty perfect. Our Roadrunner would not have eaten that, but the Harrier certainly will. So we'll tuck that down there. We just want to draw cards at this point to try and find stuff to play. Again, we're almost certainly going to take the Whooping Crane, but we don't really care about these other 2, and so I am going to choose, if I'm going to activate the Killdeer twice, to draw 3 from the deck before I make my final decision about whether I still want to draw this. So let's discard an egg to repeat the Killdeer and draw 2 cards. We got a Bronzed Cowbird, a decent bird. This will activate whenever the Automa draws a card that says activate all pink powers. Can lay eggs on birds with bowl nests, and we do have Northern Mockingbird, which has 4 egg slots. We would probably get a handful of free eggs out of it. However, I will say, when playing in the grassland, even discarding eggs with Killdeer, you can see we're still sort of becoming net positive on eggs, and I don't think we're going to need to ask for more eggs, especially since this doesn't have any egg slots. I think we're more likely to run out of egg slots than we are to run out of eggs. So unlikely to want that one. Pheasant cuckoo. Another pink power. Once between birds, when they take the lay eggs actions, lay 1 on this bird. So this is another, like, it lays eggs, but it has egg slots. It ends up being like the same total number of points if all its egg slots are filled. This one, however, eats rodents, so it would be good for our rodentologists. So more likely to play the pheasant cuckoo, but again, it doesn't have a brown power. I think we're still early enough where I can try to be picky about that. So now we'll move over to the killdeer. We're drawing 2 cards. Still going to want the whooping crane, so we'll draw 1 and see what that is and see if that changes our mind. We have the welcome swallow. When played, tuck 1 from the deck behind each bird in this habitat, including this bird. 5 egg slots and a wild nest, which is typically pretty good. And if we played that as our 5th and final grasslands bird, it would essentially be a 6-point bird, because we play it, it's worth 1, and then it would tuck 5 cards. So a 6-point bird with 5 egg slots for 2 food wouldn't be unwelcome, but I'm not sure if this is the absolute best we can hope for, especially if we're going to try to activate the grasslands a handful of times in the 2 rounds following this. My goal at the end of this round is to try and have 4 or 5 birds in the grassland, and so I'm not sure if this will be worth having if then we're going to try and activate this, probably 4 to 6 more times over the last 2 rounds. That's 4 to 6 activations of a different bird that might be worth more than 6 points for those activations. So we'll see about that. So that was the 3rd card I drew, and with the last one, I definitely still want the crane, so we're going to draw that. That'll end my turn. We'll refill the tray. There is no ground nest one there, so we'll see if it tries to draw. Like clockwork, it's crushing us with those this time. So no ground nests, and it's gaining an action cube. So it is up to 2 birds in the grassland for the round end goal. Now, the bird we drew here in the tray is the common buzzard. When played, you can play this on top of another bird, and that becomes a tucked card. Now, this is a rodent bird, so there is that, and we wouldn't have to necessarily spend food, so kind of similar to the eagle in that regard. However, this has to fully replace one of your other birds. So you would want to play it on top of something that has a very low point value, and you're not gonna, activate its brown power anymore if it was a bird with brown powers. The downside here is you have to discard any eggs and food from that bird. And so, man, if we, the killdeer's only worth 1, and the last few turns of the game, you don't really need to draw more cards. So that would be like an okay candidate to try and replace. So essentially, like, you play this, and for 0 food, you get 5 points plus the tucked card that the killdeer becomes. It would be a 4-point upgrade because we're losing the 1 point that the killdeer would offer. But if this had any eggs on it, those just disappear. And so if this were full on eggs, this would essentially just be a 1-point play, which is not something I love. I guess with the rodentologist, it would be a 3-point play if we got rid of all the eggs. Maybe a 6-point play if we did our eggs correctly. But even so, I don't know if that's going to necessarily be a high priority for us. Alright, so Automa is done with its turn. we still have not drawn a bird that we are particularly excited about playing in our grasslands. I think currently our best hope is the Greater Roadrunner, which we could play, but we have some time. We still have 6 more turns left in this round. I think we can afford to look at 4 to 8 more cards before having to go get some food and then play a bird or two down here. So I am going to choose to get some more eggs. So we'll go 1, 2. I will go ahead and pitch. I'm just going to pitch both of the Pink Powers cards that laid eggs. For the reasons I stated, I don't think they are going to be what we want to get 2 more eggs. So I'll go ahead and lay those there. And we'll activate the Harrier. We got a Southern Cassowary, which is a star wingspan, which means it essentially just counts for all wingspan checks. So we will get to eat this as a flightless bird. This is a cool card. If we ended up drawing it, we might end up playing it up there, but we're happy enough to just tuck it there. Alright, I will go ahead and repeat the Killdeer. Not, again, as I said, not terribly interested in any of these, so we will draw 2 from the deck. We got a House Wren. Play a second bird in your grasslands or forest and play its normal cost. There's 5 egg slots and it's only 1. So that might be a play we could consider up here. I think we only care more about getting to column 3. Column 4 doesn't give us an opportunity to gain more food. All it does is give us an opportunity to spend food to reset. We're not as picky about food types. We're more picky about food amounts because we can just, tailor the birds. We have an infinite supply of whatever birds we want. We can just select the food that we need, or play the birds that we have based on the food that's available to us. So I'm not sure if trying to set up a play where we play 2 birds, including this one, is necessarily going to be a goal for us. And then Gray Shrike Thrush. When activated, reset the bird feeder and gain all rodents if there are any. You may cache any or all of them on this bird. Now this one's certainly interesting. It's a forest only, and as I said, we do kind of want to get 1 more bird here. It's only worth 2 points naturally, but it is a rodent-eating bird, so 4 points for 1 food, certainly above rate there. And I'm not sure exactly what the odds are, but I think it's like less than 50% if you're rolling the bird feeder to get at least 1 rodent. But it would probably get us a point or 2 or a rodent or 2 throughout the game if we activate it, let's say, 3 times, 4 times. So it's something to think about. We'll have to see if that ends up being what we want to do. So we drew 2 cards. Now it's the Killdeer activation, which we're definitely going to do. I still want to look for cards that we are excited to play. Something I'm sort of thinking about in the back of my mind is, again, trying to manipulate the birds in the tray to have like a 1 point or a 2 point bird with a ground nest, so it has to take a low point bird for this type of action. However, I don't really want to play any of these, and I think it's more important for us to find a bird that we care about. Plus, it's possible that the Automa is going to flip over the action that resets the bird tray before it draws this sort of action again anyway. So I'm just going to draw 2 cards from the deck and see what they are. First, we got the common blackbird, which you can play sideways so it covers 2 spaces and pay the lower egg cost. This is really more effective playing on this space, so it would cover these two, because you essentially jump from column 3 to 5 while only paying 1 egg, since you're paying the lower egg cost. Playing it sideways here, you're still paying 1 egg, and you still have to pay 2 for the next 2. So that's less effective in the current setup that we have. And again, I'm not certain that we care too much about getting super far in the forest. Certainly getting here would be nice, but it's certainly less important to get here than it is to column 3 for us. So we'll hold off on that one, I think. Australian Pipit. It's a 3-point bird for 2 food with a game end power of tug a card from the deck behind each of your birds in the grassland, including this one. Ours is almost certainly going to be full, so we can consider it sort of like an 8-point bird. Play it for 3, and it'll tuck 5 cards at the end of the game. So 8 points for 2 food, certainly not bad, but I think it's still possible. Maybe I'm getting too optimistic here since we haven't found any. It's still possible for us to find a bird or 2 with some brown powers that we would be more thrilled about activating. I'm thinking about stuff like, the Galah would be probably the best possible bird, which would gain 2 points every time we activate it. Then we could copy that. Or even some of the ones that are like, you tuck a card and then draw a card, or tuck a card and gain a food. That would be outstanding for us. We'll be able to turn some of these cards into food easier. Plus tucking a card gains a point every time, so it would be really nice to get some of those that sort of progress or work more towards our overall game plan here than just a bird that's worth 8 points. But it is possible that towards the end of this round, if we haven't found anything, maybe we end up playing this just to get to the 5th slot, and it's still worth 8 points. So it wouldn't be terrible, but maybe not the best thing that we're hoping for. So that is the end of this turn. Alright, I believe this is the Automa Society card, so it's going to gain 2 eggs or 2 points and a action cube. So it now has tied us for 3 birds in the grassland for the end of round goal. So we gotta start working towards getting something up there. I do think at this point that is enough of a threat that I think I'm willing to play the Greater Roadrunner, or work towards playing it in the next turn or 2. The real question is, what sequence of events do we want to take in order to get there? Part of me wants to not have to activate the forest until we are at the 3rd column, because then we get 3 food dice per activation. And the only way we can get something here right now is by playing the Gray Shrike Thrush, because we have 1 rodent in our food, and that's our only food. And it's a forest bird, and it's okay. And then we could play this. We would lose 1 food, but we would immediately gain it back the next time we activate, because we'll turn a card into a food. So I think that is sort of an important play for us to make before activating the forest. And in order to actually play the Greater Roadrunner, which costs 3 food, we definitely need to activate in the forest to get our missing food. So it's sort of like, if we took this turn to activate it now, yes, we could get a nectar and an invertebrate and have the food ready for that the following turn. However, we could also play the Shrike Thrush, which would lose our food, but then the next turn we could gain 3. That will probably be enough to play this, what with the availability of nectar and this having 1 wild food. So in the end, we would end up, okay, for 1 forest activation, we were able to get the food we need to play the Roadrunner, but also this is in play now and got an activation out of it. maybe it got us an extra point. And certainly over the course of the rest of the game, we are going to want to have had a bird here for future activations. So I think playing this earlier is going to be worth it. So I'm going to choose to play a bird, play the gray shrike thrush, and I will spend my rodent and spend an egg. That'll be that. Next turn, alright, here we go, is resetting the bird tray. Hopefully it flips up some stuff that we want, or some low point ground nest. It certainly flipped up a low point ground nest, so there is that. And then it also gained an action cube. So it's up to 4 birds there. There are 4 turns left. If I were to guess, I would say it's reasonably likely that one of the next 4 cards is going to remove an action cube from it. I feel like it's pretty likely that we are going to be competing against the Automa having 3 or 4 birds for the round of end goal here. It's unlikely that it'll have 5, given that it has already flipped up 3 action cubes in 4 turns. I think, I don't know, I don't remember the all the possible Automa cards, but I don't think it has too many more cards with action cubes, and it certainly has a handful that remove action cubes. So I don't think we need to start stressing or abandoning our hope of winning this one, or at best tying it. I think we can still win without tying. So, okay. The birds that flipped up in the tray. We have the Western Meadowlark, which is a grassland bird, and when activated, all players lay an egg on any ground nest bird, and we can lay an additional egg on one additional ground nest bird. Now, we have 1 ground nest bird in the killdeer, and in my experience, it is certainly worth activating this. Playing with other players, you can sort of scope out their boards, see if they have any ground nest birds, and even if they do, you can see if they have any available egg slots. And if you look at their boards and they're like, all right, this person doesn't have any ground nests, so it doesn't cost me anything to activate and give them an egg. Or this person over here has a ground nest bird, but its egg slots are full, so even if I tried to give them a ground nest egg, they wouldn't have any space for it. Those are the types of decisions where, like, all right, choosing to activate it is like a huge positive because I can lay 2 and some of our opponents won't even get 1. However, when playing against the Automa, it is always going to take the extra egg, so you're always giving the Automa 1 full point. So you really only want to activate this if I think you really only want to activate it if you can get the full 2 points out of it. That's still a net gain of 1 more point over the enemy. But I suppose there are also rare scenarios where, you know, laying 1 extra egg, even if you only have 1 slot available, yeah, that's thinking pretty deep hypothetical here. But I think for the most part, my conclusion is it's worth activating this, even though the Automa always gets an extra point, because you're still getting ahead by 1 if you can lay both eggs with it. So that would be a decent one for us to have if we can start finding more ground nests with a lot of egg slots, because if we're going to be activating the grassland, let's say 4 or 5 more times in the next few rounds, like, we'll want to make sure we have, you know, 8 to 10 egg slots available on ground nests. And right now we would have 3 here and 4 here, so kind of at most 3 to 4 activations. Now looking at our hand, we have the whooping crane, which is a ground nest, but it only has 1 egg slot, and the welcome swallow, which has 5 egg slots, and it's a wild nest, so it would count for that. So that's 6 extra egg slots if we wanted to play the welcome swallow just as sort of a 6-point bird, and it would give us a bunch of egg slots. We also have the Australian pipit in our hand, which, as I said before, is mostly just going to be considered an 8-point bird, but 4 extra egg slots and a ground nest would make this a reasonably enticing card to pursue. So we'll have to consider whether trying to draw this is going to be something we aim for, because if it can get 4 or 5 activations and have all of the eggs always get used every time we activate it, and we activate it every time that we choose to lay eggs, then that would be a good bird to have in here. That would be one of the ones where, all right, we got a lot of activations, a lot of points out of it. Extra eggs for multiple killdeer activations would be solid. If we have tons of egg slots, we can even start doubling it with the northern mockingbird. So lots of potential in there. We'll have to see about that. Second bird that popped up is the pied-billed grebe. When activate, draw 2 and then discard 1 at the end of turn. A pretty mediocre card. It's an okay early play if you need to be able to get some card selection. It's worth 0 points. It does have 4 egg slots, but we certainly don't need it. We're not trying to activate our wetlands at all. I wish this had a ground nest, because then we could leave a 0-point bird for the Automa. Common chaffinch. Choose 1 to 5 birds in this habitat. Tuck 1 from your hand behind each. Now this is the type of card that we really care about. So, because we have the killdeer and mockingbird, as you have seen, we can draw up to 4 cards with that. Cards don't automatically turn into points. You have to have something that helps that. The common chaffinch would typically be a bird you would want to play in the wetlands, where if you're drawing 3 or 4 cards every turn and you can tuck most of them behind all your birds, it's like, all right, great, every time I activate down in the wetlands, I'm filling up cards and then tucking them. So it's pretty rare to be able to use this effectively in the grasslands or the forest. However, we have the absolute perfect, basically the best possible setup to take advantage of this. Turn all of our cards into points. We can turn eggs into a bunch of cards. We can then turn extra cards into eggs, and then turn all the cards into points. It's just like a huge, very powerful sequence. So I believe this card is so valuable for us that I am going to delay our plan to get some food and play the Roadrunner in favor of drawing cards. I like the chaffinch more than the meadowlark. I still think the meadowlark would potentially be good for us. However, this card, the Australian pipit that we talked about, providing a bunch of egg slots for ground nests, would not be able to fit if we played the chaffinch and the meadowlark. So I'm also a little bit I do kind of want to leave this here for the Automa. So if it has to take a bird with a ground nest, it only gets 2 points. So we may plan on drawing cards, taking the chaffinch, and leaving this one here for now. I think that'll be a pretty good plan. So let's get 2 eggs. Let's go 1, 2. I do think we're going to have some cards to discard here. I think we will gladly pitch the common blackbird for 1 egg, and I'm going to pitch the house wren for 1 egg as well. So that's 2 more. Just place them like that. Northern harrier, see if it eats. It does, 52 centimeters. Harriers had a 100% hit rate so far. Quite good. Alright. I still think we're in the market for drawing as many cards as possible, especially since the goal is to get this Chaffinch. We'll be able to turn them all into points. So this is essentially a turn an egg, which is worth 1 point, into 2 cards, which are then going to be worth 1 point each. So 2 points per activation of Kill Deer, which is as good as we could ever hope for. So I'm going to repeat the Kill Deer. I'm going to go ahead and draw my first 2 from the pile, again saving this for a later activation. We drew a purple Gualine. I'm going to stop sort of reading every single card here. This is probably going to be a long video otherwise. But it's a wetland bird. We don't really need it. And then Pacific Black Duck. For every 2 eggs in your thing, lay 1 on this bird. This one's okay. At most, it would be sort of an 8-point bird, and especially if you don't care about activating down here like we don't. An 8-point bird for 2 food is decent if we can guarantee that there are 12 eggs down here, which is almost certainly not a guarantee. It's going to be hard for us to make that work. Alright, Kill Deer. I will discard an egg. I'm going to go ahead and leave the Meadowlark here and draw 1 from the deck and then draw the Chaffinch is probably the play. Spotted Owl. This is outstanding. 2 new bonus cards. It's a Ronin thing. We're definitely going to want to play this up here at some point. And then I'll draw the Chaffinch. So, an outstanding set of cards that we have drawn here for us. That ends our turn. We'll refill the tray. We got a Hooded Merganser, which potentially a decent card. You'd have to have a pretty good setup to make it really powerful, but certainly not for us this game. Alright, Automa's turn. It gets 2 eggs, and there we go. It's going to remove an action cube. So it's back down to 3 for the round end goal. And it did gain 2 points that turn. Now, we want to get the common Chaffinch into play, and eventually we'll want to get this Spotted Owl down, but that's not as important early, I don't think. We really want to fill out these 2 slots, so we need to start getting some food. So let's get food. We will certainly take a Nectar. We know we're going to be able to spend at least 1 as the first food, and then think it's possible that with this turn and then 2 more turns we might be able to spend more nectar. Basically what I'm deciding is whether we want to take this invertebrate and then re-roll to try and get either another nectar or a different type of food. And if we were to get another nectar, would we be able to spend it? I think the answer is yes, because we could plan on the last 2 turns being play Chaffinch and then play, let's say, Spotted Owl. That would leave us with only 4 in the grassland, and we would not have enough to play the Roadrunner. We would need another food for that. We could choose to play the Pipit here, but I'm not 100% about that. Alright. I am going to choose to do that. So let's get 1 invertebrate, and then since these are both the same, we'll re-roll the bird feeder. Yeah, 3 nectar available. Let's go ahead and take 1. I'm going to plan on that sequence there. Okay. We're going to reset the bird feeder and see if we find any rodents. This is a fish, so no rodents. It's not too surprising. It's probably less than 50%. Alright, so that was our turn there. Oh, wait. I meant to discard a card to get another food. Alright, hopefully you all don't get too upset. I'm going to retroactively do it, but I won't get another nectar. I'll get something else. So I'm going to go ahead and discard that, and I'll gain a fish. I've got this that's going to need fish later. Alright, I meant to do that, but I got distracted for a moment. So hopefully that's not a huge issue. I guess this got reset, but I don't know. You all will have to live with my mistake. Alright, this is going to reset the bird tray, so leaving the metal arc there didn't pay off for us this time. Oh boy. Okay. So it reset into an American Kestrel, which, not a great ability, but it does have a rodent in its cost. The American Bittern, which I don't think we're going to want to do. It's worth 9 points for us because of our bonus card, but I don't know. We certainly don't need the activation. Now here, however, the Gala, a really strong card if I understand its ability correctly. Basically it says, every time you activate it, you choose a player, they reset the bird feeder and gain a seed if there is one, which is most of the time. But then it's a separate sentence, so it says regardless, or it doesn't say regardless, it says you tuck 2 cards from the deck behind this bird. Because it's a separate sentence, I typically would understand that to mean whether or not they gain a seed is unrelated to you tucking a card, or tucking 2 from the deck. So every time you activate, it always tucks 2 from the deck, and then sometimes the opponent gains a seed. So that is the way I have been playing it. If anyone sees this and can provide some source as to why you should only get to tuck if they get a seed, I'm open to it. My rules knowledge background comes from Magic the Gathering primarily, where if written this way, that is exactly how it would work in that game. The separate sentences are not connected by any words that would suggest that they're tied. So with the Automa, even though you might be giving it a seed sometimes, each food that isn't a nectar is only worth like 1/3 of a point. And so even if they get a seed every time, by the time you've given them 3 seeds for 1 point, you have gained 6 points. So very worth having this card. And this would be an excellent way to finish filling out our grasslands if we have the Chaffinch and the Gala. Now, this does put us in a small predicament in terms of being able to spend our nectar and draw the Gala, because our plan was to play the Chaffinch and then play the Spotted Owl, which would get us to 4 in the grasslands, and then this would use our nectar. However, I really believe we want to draw this before the end of round, or even before the Automa has a chance to change the tray. And so perhaps the plan should instead be activate this to draw. We draw the Gala with one of those. Probably the Bittern as well. We might play it as a 9-point bird in a later round. And then the turn after that, we could spend our 2 nectar on the Gala. We could spend the 2 nectar and our 2 remaining food here as the 3rd seed for its cost. Just spend all of our food on that to get it into play. So that would put us at 4 birds in the grassland for the end of the round. That would be our last 2 turns. And We might end up losing to the Automa if it flips up 2 action cubes, but I anticipate that at worst we would tie it for the round 2 goal. And I think the turns after that are going to be well worth it. We will get so many points by having the Gala in play. So yeah, let's do that instead. Alright, 2 eggs. Place those kind of wherever. Start discarding cards. We can finally discard the Greater Roadrunner and the Australian Pipit. Those are grasslands only, and they're not going to fit with our plan. So we'll get 2 more eggs. 1, 2. Activate the Harrier. 51 centimeters. It eats. We will continue using the Killdeer for sure. So this time, we're probably going to draw these 2. So I'll draw 2 from the deck with this one, and then those 2 from the middle with the Killdeer, unless we draw something much better. A Barred Owl, medium card for the forest, a White-Faced Heron, pretty medium card for the wetlands. Alright, then I will discard that, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick those up, and that'll end this turn. Okay, so things that flipped up in the middle here. Clark's Greed, 5 points in a Wild Nest, which I believe still count for these. I may have to double check the rules on that someday, but you know, it's not better or worse than not having a ground nest here for it. And then Short-Toed Tree Creeper. If you're activating the forest a bunch, this can certainly be quite powerful if you have a way to have enough eggs up there and get some free plays, essentially. I don't expect that that's going to be a thing that we need. I have a feeling just activating this as much as possible is going to be more valuable. So those flipped up. It's now this turn. Oh, that's great. It gets 2 eggs and it removes an action cube. So now, with only 1 turn left, the best that it can do is have 3 birds in the grassland. So since we're going to play this here, we're basically guaranteed to win this round goal. Alright, so let's do that. We'll play the Gala. We'll spend 2 nectar, and we'll use the 2 food conversion to get our final seed. And it costs 2 eggs, so we'll take the 2 eggs off. And there's that. There is a bird that meets its requirements. It's worth 5. We'll go ahead and give it the Grebe. And then this flips up, but it's not going to do anything because we're just going to end the round and replace it. So we'll adjust its nectar, gain 1 in the grassland and 1 in the wetland. Pretty unlikely that we're going to be competing for these much at all. Ideally, we'd want to get 1 nectar in here, so we at least come in second place and get 2 points. If you have 0 nectar, you get 0 points. There's a chance we could still spend a bunch of nectar down here, again with our big egret whooping crane play. So, you know, getting higher than 6 will maybe be tough. I don't think we should necessarily plan on that. So we'll have to see how that goes. Alright, we ended up with 4 in the grassland. It only had 2, so we won that round goal. So let's set up for round 3. Replace the tray. Alright, no ground nests. What do we have? We have Sacred Kingfisher. 0 points, 1 food, once between birds. I guess it's like when they activate our pink power, we gain 1 of those from the bird feeder if there is one, which I think is like really high chance. Basically, you'd have to have only seed, fruit, and nectar in the bird feeder to never get any of these. So this is pretty much always guaranteed to get you a food when it's activated. However, 0 point bird, well, I guess 2 for us since it's a rodent, for 1 food, and sometimes it gets us some food. I'm not sure. I don't think that's going to be a high priority for us. Although, as I say that, I am concerned about getting enough food to make this big play in the later stages of this game. So maybe we should think about that more. The little owl, steal a rodent from another player's supply and cache it. They gain 1 from the bird feeder. So again, this would only steal from the Automa if they have a cube here. Then they would be considered to meet the requirement, if I understand those rules correctly. So you would get that and get a point, and then they would get 1 food, so a third of a point in the horde. So an okay exchange, but since it's not guaranteed to work every time, not super high priority for us. And then cockatiel, you can discard food to tuck something from the tray. We're already looking for food. We don't want to spend it for tucking points. We don't need that. Alright, so our plan for the next few rounds is certainly going to be get the chaffinch into play. So that way we can start tucking excess cards down here. And then we want to get enough food to play some of these birds. It seems like the 4 we care about the most are the egret and the whooping crane. We probably want to play the spotted owl up here. It doesn't really change the order in which we do this. We're almost never going to discard a food to reset the bird feeder. So we can certainly like activate up here without playing this first and not feel too bad. And then we may want to consider doing this. It would be worth 9 points. I guess we would lose an egg if it's the 3rd one down here. So 8 points. It might be an okay play, especially if like all our egg slots are full, so activating here isn't worth it anymore. But I don't know, man. Even if all our egg slots are full, activating here still lets us use the Gala, which is 2 points, this, which is probably worth a point, at least 75% of a point, so that's 2.75, and then these can combine to be 4 points when the chaffinch is in play. I guess you lose 2 eggs, so -2, but then +4, or we could even double the chaffinch if our hand has like 10 cards in it. We can just put, 10 cards in here. So even if all our egg slots are full, activating here still gets us an incredible amount of points. 1, 2, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably 8. So it'd still be maybe even better than taking a turn off to gain food and then playing a 9-point bird, for example. It's possible that that's all we do for the rest of the game. I do think getting these 2 in play is worth it, and probably this one as well, but we will have to see about that. Alright, so to start our turn, we definitely want to get this chaffinch in play before we activate this row again. And in order to do that, we need to get some food. The tray does not have any nectar, which we would want. We certainly want to get a nectar up here, at least 1 down here, and then maybe try to compete for first place in one of these 2 by spending a lot of nectar there. Not sure if that's going to be super possible, though. Be hard for us to reset the bird feeder. We can certainly take these 2 and then reset to try and get nectar by discarding a card, and that's probably our best bet. because this will play the chaffinch. This contributes towards, you know, her great heron, great egret. Alright, that's probably the play. Alright, so let's go ahead and take those two. I'll just do invertebrate and fish. And then I'll remember to discard a card first this time. Can pitch the Pacific black duck and reset. Oh boy, no nectar, which is pretty sad. But we can pick something else up. I think a rodent's probably worth it. There's a few of our cards that still need rodents. Alright, then we'll do the Shrike Thrush, see if we hit any rodents. No rodents, but there's the nectar. Wish those happened in the other order. Sad. Alright. No ground nest birds here, so it gets 5. I guess just for everyone's awareness, the round goal for this round is brown powers. We have 5. The Automa currently also has 5. So hopefully we can get another few down. We're definitely going to play the chaffinch here. That'll be 6. And then that may end up being the last one, unless we wanted to like play the barred owl up here, which would be an okay play if it gets us, you know, 4 food per activation up here, and it's worth 5 because of that. It's currently like the only reasonable way I see for us getting 2 more brown powers up here without drawing other cards. But we'll probably draw other cards and see how that plays out. But for now, we're going to choose to play our common chaffinch. We are going to spend an invertebrate and 2 eggs. That's our turn. The Tumbling Society again, 2 eggs and an action cube, so it's up to 6 brown powers. Tied with us, we're still okay. It would be pretty sad if we lost this. I'd be okay with a tie. I don't really want to lose this round goal to the Automa here. So suppose we could choose to play the barred owl here. We already have enough food for it. And if we need to get food in order to play anything else, it'd be better to have it in, because we'll probably get some points by activating it. So that's an okay idea. Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. Because we play it, spend our rodents, spend an egg, and we're up to 7 brown powers now for the round end goal. That seems reasonable. Oh boy, yet another. No ground nest, and it gains a thing. It's tying us. Hopefully in the next 3 it decides to lose some of its action cubes. Alright, so we can either start hunting for food, so we could get some nectar, which we would want to spend, or we can start activating here. Given that we're guaranteed to get some nectar, we have a decent way to spend it with the spotted owl, because we do kind of want to get up here. To hopefully, you know, only need to activate twice in order to get the right amount of food to play these. However, I guess as it stands, we would only need to activate this twice to get 6 food. I don't like spending a bunch of time activating up here when we've got this insane row that this is our whole plan. I think at minimum we can afford to delay our decision about the food for one turn and at least start doing this. Maybe we draw something that changes our mind. Who knows? Maybe we draw that card that's like costs 1 food, and when we play it we get 1 of each from the bird feeder. That would be an outstanding thing, I think. Get a lot more food for 1 play. So we'll do 1 here. Get 4 eggs. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. When activated, we can tuck cards behind stuff. I don't think we're going to be able to play the American Bittern. At most, we'll be able to play these 3. So I'm willing to tuck 3 cards in our hand currently. So I suppose I'll go ahead and choose the Killdeer and the Mockingbird and the Harrier. Doesn't matter too much. Do the Gala. We'll choose another player. Reset the bird feeder. See if they get a seed. Goodbye to our nectar there. They did get a seed, so they get 1. And we tuck 2 cards behind it. It's getting a little unruly with all these tucked cards down here. Northern Harrier, 99 centimeters, too big. First miss. And then we'll repeat a brown power. I still think it's worth drawing cards, because now we'll need to be able to we need cards in order to tuck those. At this point, there's not a lot better than we can draw than what's already in our hand, but we'll see. We got a black nudie, which is 9 points if we wanted to make a big wetlands play. I wonder if the whooping crane being worth 6 but getting us 2 bonus card bites at the apple is worth more than 9 on average. It's possible. And then we got the red-caped robin, which I don't think we're ever going to have time to play. And then we'll do this. Do the Killdeer. Let's just draw 2 from the deck. We got a blue jay, which we're not going to be able to play, and a rufous owl, which would be an okay play up here. It eats rodents, so it's worth 9. Not sure if we're going to be able to have that much food, though. So that's that turn. It is going to reset the tray and gain another action cube. It's what, 3 or 4 in a row? It's pretty rough for us. No ground nests. You see up in the tray a Tui, which copies a brown power, 1 bird in the forest of the player on your left. Now, since we're playing against the Automa, which doesn't have any birds in its forest, the way that this works is you can copy the power of a bird in the tray that has a forest as one of its habitats. So we're not going to do that this game, but just in case you're curious, that's my understanding of how that works. European bee eater, grassland bird. We don't have any room for it. That'll just hang out there. Red-headed woodpecker. Certainly an okay card if you play it early. It is pretty food expensive, and it's not guaranteed to get seeds because it's from the bird feeder. But you can go ahead and cash it on the card. So an okay card. We're not going to play with any of these, but that's what's out there. So that was the Automa's turn 4. Alright, so we have 1 nectar and some rodents and fish. We are interested in rodents and fish. Question is, I am starting to wonder if it's even worth trying to play any of these, or if we should literally spend the next 7 turns activating this. It's like we get 4 eggs, but then we spend 2 each time. So it's like a net of plus 2 eggs. We currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 available egg slots. And if we activate this 7 times with 2 eggs each, we would like exactly fill all our egg slots. That's sort of a rough estimate. I know we have to add eggs in order to remove them. So maybe on the last turn we wouldn't remove eggs, for example, and we would miss out on 2 points. So it's possible that that's just what we are supposed to do instead. However, by doing that, we are sacrificing a little bit for this. I don't remember exactly, but I think the Automa starts with 20 towards food cost of played birds in round 4. If I remember from the last time. We currently have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we would like not even be close. But I suppose even if we played 6 more, that only gets us to 19, and it could never go less than 20, if I'm remembering that number correctly. So I don't even know if we can win the round 4 bonus. Even if we played all 3 of these, it would be very difficult. And this is a ton of food, and we do not have the ability to gain a ton of food. So I'm starting to think our best chance of winning is just activate this every turn, abandon our pretty exciting plan of having this huge, 15-point play plus a bonus card, because in order to get to this 15-point play, we essentially have to lose 3 turns of activating this. And I believe this on average gains us much more than 5 points per turn. Yeah, it definitely does. So the bonus card from this would have to be really powerful in order for us to outpace just activating this for 3 turns instead. So okay. I think that's the plan. It also gives us, we can now start tucking more of these cards since we're not planning to play them anymore. And we already have plenty of our rodentologist stuff going, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is already providing 8 points. We would only be gaining 2 more points from this and maybe 2 more points from this. So, all right. We're just back to original Wingspan and egg spam for the last few turns, I suppose. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Tuck. I'll save these in case I change my mind for whatever reason, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tucks. Alright, reset the bird feeder, see if the Automa gets a seed. It does. And then we tuck 2 behind this anyway. Boop. And then we'll I'll see if the Harrier gets to eat. 25 centimeters, it eats. Alright. So, just to be clear about the Mockingbird, it's kind of an interesting decision. So, we can either repeat the Gala, which gets us +2 points, and then gives the Automa pretty close to 1/3 of a point every time we activate. So we're like plus 1.6 with every one of these activations. However, if we copy the Kill Deer, we lose an egg, but get 2 cards. And as we recall, 2 cards are basically worth 2 points from this on every turn except for the very last turn. So we're essentially like net positive 1 point. And we are making room for more eggs since our plan is to activate this a bunch of times. Because I think if we, for example, only used the Mockingbird for the next 7 turns on the Gala, we would run out of egg space with like probably 3 rounds remaining in the last round. And so even though we gained, an extra half point each activation from the Gala up until that point, the last 3 rounds or so, we would be losing the ability to get points from the eggs. And so maybe someone who is not as tired as I am at the moment would sit here and run the numbers and figure out the exact perfect combination of those mathematically to get the most amount of points. But what I am going to do is activate the Kill Deer at least for the next 4 or 5. Like this time and the next 4 or 5, I'm going to use the Mockingbird to copy the Kill Deer, and then maybe on the last 1 or 2 turns, I'll use it to copy the Gala instead, just to make sure we don't run out of egg spaces for the number of activations that we're doing with this. So that's my logic. Mockingbird, pitch an egg, get 2 cards. Honestly, I'm not even really going to look at them because they're just going to get tucked and they are not going to affect our plays much. So I'll peek at them, but I'm not going to waste your time reading them unless it's something that's particularly exciting. Alright, discard. Get 2 more cards. I guess an argument could be made for taking cards from the center in the hopes of flipping up a ground nest bird that's worth less than 5 points. However, there's also the risk of flipping up birds that are worth more than 5 points, which are pretty rare. I'll go ahead and risk it. So I'll just take these 2, and that'll be the end, so we'll replace them. Flip up a 7-point bird, and it immediately takes it, so perhaps that was a mistake. My hope was if one did flip up, since I know I'm going to be drawing a bunch of cards, I could sort of start taking the ones that do flip up here, but such is the punishment. I gained another action cube. This is pretty unreal. Really unfortunate. Probably running out of cards here, so I'm going to grab another stack. Shuffle, even though we're probably not going to care about what we draw here for the last few turns. Man, and there's our 0-point ground nest. Couldn't have waited. Maybe the last turn will be like draw a card and lose an action cube. It'll get 0 points, and then we'll tie the round power or the round end goal. That would be ideal. We'll see if we have any chance of being that lucky. Alright, 4 eggs. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go ahead and start pitching all the cards that I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think from now on I'm just going to start a stack here. I don't think there's any other cards in the game that care about the number underneath each individual card. We know that they all have tucked cards under them, if there were any cards where that matters, so I'm just going to save some time there. Reset the bird feeder. See if the Automa claims a seed. They do. I guess she does. I believe Stonemeyer Games has declared that her pronouns are she for the Automa. Tuck 2 behind the Gala. See if the Harrier eats. 90 centimeters. Does not eat. Alright, Mockingbird. Activate the Killdeer. Killdeer, activate the Killdeer. Draw 2 cards. Alright. That's my turn. Alas, all it does is take some fruit, activate pink powers. Alright, so that's the end of this round. It's going to adjust its nectar. It does gain a bunch of nectar there. Maybe that should have factored into my decision making more. We're just going down to essentially 0 nectar, so we're losing out on 4 points by choosing not to engage with nectar in those 2. So it's very possible that that was just a pure mistake when all the points shake out, but perhaps someone who sees this and is more inclined to run the actual numbers all the way through can tell me the end result. But I think if it is a mistake, it's not a mistake by a ton. You know, probably less than 5 points total. If it is a mistake, I don't think it's a mistake worth like 10 to 15 points. But if it is worth 5 and we lose by 5, then, you know, I will have deserved it. Alright, so that's the end of round 3. We have 5, 6, 7. And it, of course, had 9 because it just drew very well off of its deck there. Pretty tragic. Okay, well, here we go. We have a 1-point bird with a star nest. We're going to leave that there as we are drawing for the last few turns. Alright. Let's activate. Get 4 eggs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tuck 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to place the tucked cards up here. So those are all tucked. Reset the bird feeder. See if the Automa gets a seed. They do. I suppose we'll have them take the nectar one. I don't think it matters all that much. Give them their 4th seed. See if the Harrier eats. It eats. And then copy the Killdeer and then activate the Killdeer normally. Where was that? Yeah, so I was right. It does have a 20 towards the food cost of played birds as the round 4 goal. So I think it would have been really, really hard, if not impossible, for us to get into first place with that. And since we at least have a non-zero number of food here, we're going to come in second place without having played any more birds. So I at least feel justified about that decision. Alright. 4 more eggs. We're getting close to running out of space here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tuck. We only have 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll just tuck all of them. Reset the bird feeder. See if it gets a seed. Does. It's up to 5. So it would basically have to miss 3 times in a row in order for it to not get any more points. But if it hits any one of those 3, then it might as well have hit all 3, because the next threshold, since it's only every 3 food gets it a point, the next threshold would be at 9, and so there's no way it could get to 9 since it's only at 5 given food right now. So we'll tuck 2 cards behind that. See, the Harrier eats, 18 centimeters it eats. Mockingbird, activate the Killdeer, and Killdeer, activate the Killdeer. Please draw this 1-point bird. No. All my hard work of just not doing anything. Alright. At least we could take some of these cards away, try and get lucky, which maybe at this point we need to do. So we'll see. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4 eggs. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Tuck 4 cards. Reset the bird feeder. Still got a seed. Alright, so now it doesn't matter if it gets more seeds, because it's not going to get more points from it. Tuck 2 cards behind this. I'm just going to set them up here. Does the Harrier eat? 30 centimeters it eats. Place that there as well. Mockingbird, draw 2. Killdeer, draw 2. Alright, Automa Society. I think that's come up every round, or at least the last 3 rounds. So this has been a very challenging round against the Automa. It already has 98 points. We haven't even given it all its like nectar end of round goals and stuff like that. So it's going to be a high scoring game from the Automa. If we do win, we will have earned it. It was not a poor game from the Automa. I'd say this is well above average from my experience. Oh yeah, I thought about resetting these, but then I forgot. So try to remember this time. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's probably the last time, well, certainly the last time we're going to activate the Killdeer and whatnot. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is maximum egg capacity. This is what I was worried about. If we had stopped using the Mockingbird with the Killdeer earlier, we probably, at least 1 round, maybe 2 rounds ago, would not have been able to get all 4 points out of this. We would be getting like 1 point if we just keep using the Killdeer once to remove its egg. So I think I made at least a reasonable decision comparing it against using the Mockingbird on the Gala for most of these turns. But alright, 4 eggs fit perfectly. We'll pitch our 4 cards to tuck them, reset the bird feeder. I guess I don't need to do this since we already established it doesn't matter, but just for completeness, we'll show you how frequently the bird feeder gives them a seed, and it's basically every time. It has not missed yet, and we have activated it, I don't know, probably 7 times already. See if the Harrier eats. 28, it eats. This has proven to be pretty close to above average, if not, certainly not below average. I think we've only missed twice, and we have activated it 10 or 15 times, so that's been good. Alright, Mockingbird, for the last time, we'll use on the Killdeer to free up at least 2 egg slots. Okay, I drew from the deck. I'm going to remember to do this one this time. So let's take these 2 at least. Didn't find a new one anyway. Maybe if it was this one, then I'll be sad. Yeah, I'll actually just peek to see if we got punished. We didn't. We were not going to get there. We would have had to do it multiple turns in a row, so. Alright. And the last turn, we'll activate it. We're not getting maximum eggs. Oh, I forgot to remove one from the kill deer last turn. We're not getting maximum eggs this time because there's only 2 slots left from the 2 kill deer activations. So we are missing out on 2 possible points from eggs, but I think we've gotten, 4 eggs plus 4 tucked cards plus Gala is 2 plus the Harrier has been close to 1 every time. So that's like between 10 and 11 points every time we've activated in here every turn for the last 7 turns. So even though we've missed out on 2 eggs here, I think it has been well worth kind of sitting down and making a judgment call to abandon our big, like, wetland plus bonus card plus huge point birds play, and maybe some nectar here. Because, even if that were worth 20 points, activating this 3 times has been worth at least 30. And we would have had to activate twice up here for food and then once to play it. So that's 3 turns. Plus we'd have to spend an egg. We would have had to lose some of the cards, which would make this less powerful the next time we activated it. Yeah, I think it's very possible that I made a perfect call without doing a full mathematical breakdown, but we'll see. Alright, so we added our 2 eggs. That's all we can fit. We'll tuck our last 4 cards here. We'll do the Gala one last time. See if it gets 100%. It does. It goes up to 8 food. We tuck 2 behind the Gala. Check the Harrier. 55. It eats. An outstanding card name, Count Raji's Bird of Paradise. Very good. Mockingbird. This time, we will use it on the Gala. Oh, I guess it would matter if we are copying the Gala. Now if it gets another seed. So I'm glad that I kept doing it. There we go. We gave it 1 more point. You'll see this will go up to 9, and you'll see the point goes up to 104. So it did end up mattering. We'll tuck 2 behind the Gala again. And then we will not activate the kill deer. We'll leave our eggs there for the last turn. And this one's last turn is to reset the tray, which doesn't matter, and get another action cube. Adjust its nectar, 5, 8, and 5. So it stayed with its starting value in the forest and the wetlands, but it did gain 3 throughout the course of the game, up to 8 in the grasslands. We didn't end up, having a great food generation game, but we had a pretty sick grasslands game. Very powerful engine here. I am thinking now, since we ended up spending our last 7 turns in a row just activating down here and abandoning the play to spend a couple turns getting some food, I wonder if it would have been correct for us to, instead of playing the Barred Owl, if we had played the one that, I can't remember the name, the other owl that drew 2 bonus cards and was worth 5 points for 2 food. Draw 2 and then discard a bonus card. Got us 1 more bonus card. Probably would have been better than the Barred Owl since we never activated this. What I can't recall is whether we had the ability to pay for rodent plus rodent. So we have a fish here. It's not like we have an extra rodent in here. Or if we could have made a decision instead of taking the fish to take a rodent at some point. So maybe that would have gotten us at least 2 more points with the bird. I'm not sure if it had more egg slots, then that may have been better. I can look around and double check it. And maybe if we had gotten a powerful bonus card out of it that got us, 4 to 6 more points, then that would have been a better play than the Barred Owl. But other than that, I'm very happy with the choice to delay our decision as long as possible in the grasslands to really set up cards with really powerful brown power activations. We did get a little lucky, obviously. We got a very early killdeer and a mockingbird, but then we had to wait, I don't know, 5 turns to even find, you know, these last 2 cards that we considered worth the last 2 slots, when we had opportunities to put cards that were worth, you know, still pretty good, like some 8-point birds for 2 food or equivalents of that. But I think, as you can see, these last 2 were worth way more than, you know, 8 points for 2 food, or even like 15 points for 2 food. I think both of these were worth well over 20 points each. So that paid off this game. So let's go ahead and wrap up and get the final count. Doesn't really matter what our food cost is here. I think I said it was 13. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12, 13. Yeah, 23, so we came in second on that one. Spent nectar 0, and then 4, and then 0. So it's going to gain 15 points from nectar right away. So it's already, you know, over 120 points. We're only gaining 2. So that's rough. Another nice thing about this app is it'll sort of do a lot of the math for you. You just have to sort of tell it. There's this nice feature where as you type numbers, it'll add them for you if you want. So that's really nice for this. So I can just like go through and type in the number for each of these bird cards. So 8 for the eagle, 2 for the strike thrush, 3 for the barred owl, 1 for killdeer, 2 for northern mockingbird, 3 for northern harrier, 5 for gala, 4 for chaffinch. Only 28 from birds, but obviously we care a lot more about our tucked cards. Our 1 bonus card, rodentologist, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 birds that eat rodents. That's 8 total points. Pretty good bonus. Eggs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Not bad. We maxed out all our eggs. Cached food, we have 0. Tucked cards. Now this is the big number here. So I'm going to remove all of our face-up birds and do a big tucked card count. Alright, so all of those plus this big stack, so we didn't have to keep moving them around. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 61 tucked cards, 130 points, which is a very high score. We did give the Automa 3 points from those seeds, and as we said, it definitely had at least 120. So we may have won. I think it's very close either way. Let's see. Oh my god. Oh my god. Let's see if you all can see this. It had 131 points, and we had 130. Unbelievable. Even with the killdeer, even with some probably best in slot possible cards in our grassland with the chaffinch, the mockingbird, and the gala, and what felt to me like an overperforming harrier that only missed twice out of like 15 activations. We still lost by 1 point, and man, yeah, it really makes me wonder if there was a way we could have changed this bird up here. That was the obvious thing where, because we made that decision based on the idea that we were going to activate up here, And then afterwards, we decided to never activate up here ever again. That was the one where, had we made the decision to not activate up there, we could have changed our mind about either playing that at all or straight up never playing that one and instead choosing to activate this grasslands one more time. We certainly would have maxed out on eggs probably a whole turn sooner. We would have lost 2 egg slots, but that would have been one more card in our hand that we could have tucked, and it would have given us, one more turn of activating the killdeer twice and tucking 4 more cards. So this was only worth, 5 points, 3 from the bird, 2 from rodentologist, -1 because we lost an egg, though I guess we would have maxed out the egg slots either way. So it was only like a +5 play, and I have a feeling just not playing that at all and activating the grasslands one more time would have been worth more than 5. Would it have been worth 7, which is what we would have needed to get 131 points? I'm not sure. So this was an exciting game. This is a very long video. It's the first one I've ever done like this. I tried to do a lot more explaining about my logic and kind of showing you what all the cards did, kind of walking through my decision making and what I was valuing at different times. Maybe in the future, if I decide to do more of these, I will spend less time on that. Maybe go through some of these quicker. So when I play by myself and I'm not talking about my decisions or anything, it usually only takes me at most like an hour to go through one of these games. So this being what looks like 2.5 hours, certainly much different. But yeah, so I think with minor improvements to some of my decisions throughout the game, that could have been a game that I won, but the Automa is relentless and does not give you an inch sometimes, as we saw with, I think it's round 3, also contributed heavily to the outcome here. Had we tied it for the round goal of brown powers, if it had, instead of gaining 1 more action cube during round 3, if it instead drew a card that removed an action cube, we would have tied it, and then, I would have gained, I think, 2 more points, and it would have lost 2 points overall, so we would have won if that were the case too. Just, this was on a razor's edge, this game, and I don't know. It's also possible that maybe I missed tucking 2 cards under the gala, maybe I rolled and then just moved on. I don't think I did. I don't want to say that that was definitely the case, but if someone's watching very closely and notices me missing a point somewhere, I'd be interested to hear about that. So that would feel vindicated after such a close game too. But in any case, this was a lot of fun. I hope anyone who watches this enjoyed kind of joining me on this pretty intense battle against the Automa. One of the reasons I decided to make this is because, as a person who really enjoys, the high-level strategy of games like this, and listening to a person kind of talk through some of the important decisions that they make throughout the game, someone who's at least somewhat experienced in playing these types of games, hopefully someone who's an expert. I would not call myself an expert, but the reason I bring that up is because I was looking for content like this to see if I could learn from someone else and get better at playing Wingspan, whether it's going to be against friends and family or just playing against the Automa. I had a hard time finding videos out there, specifically with the European and Oceania expansions in them. There's a lot of content out there on the digital edition, which is fantastic, but it currently only has the core Wingspan game at the time of this recording. And so I kind of wanted to put something out there, see what other people thought, and maybe I'll do more of this. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Be very interested if anyone has any feedback or notices anything that I got wrong during my play. If there's a rule I misunderstood or anything like that, feel free to let me know. Until then, see ya.